Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters. In 1930s Oklahoma, amid the region's horrific dust storms, a woman is convinced that a sinister presence is threatening her family. Yes, folks, this is my raw reaction review for Hold Your Breath. First off, I want to thank the folks over at Hulu for letting us check this one out a little bit early. This one did pop up on our 31 of 31 films to check out in October. This one actually made it into the top 10. I gotta be honest, the trailer had me really captivated. I watched that once and said, this should be on the list because they really do a good job of capturing that looming dread, that eeriness. And it's just an interesting time period and setting. The 1930s with this Dust Bowl and, this potential serial killer looming, I thought was rather interesting. So this one I knew we had to check out in October. Plus, we have the great Sarah Paulson in this one. So it was checking all the boxes, but did it live up to the hype? Let's find out. I think a lot of viewers are going to be drawn to this film because of Sarah Paulson. She's pretty notable for American Horror Story and has played in the horror realm before, so I think a lot of people will check this out because of her. And then she also has a nature to really elevate a film regardless of if the script is up to par or not. And I gotta be honest, she really does give an emotional arc in this film, being the head of the family while the husband's away. Paulson has this sort of warm assertiveness, I guess you would say, in her portrayal as Margaret, which can give you a sense of assurance at times, but a sense of unease in other scenes, which is an interesting dynamic as we go from scene to scene, because it gives you a really different emotion as we get through the film. The chemistry between Paulson and her on-screen daughters, played by Amiah Miller and Alana Jane Robbins, felt really authentic, and they were able to create a real feeling family dynamic. From a dramatic standpoint, I think there were some shining moments for the young actors, which really helped sell the connective tissue of the actual characters themselves. The biggest surprise for me from a performance perspective was Ebon Moss-Bachrach, who plays Wallace. He's this reverend that has this supernatural aspect to him, I guess you would say. As soon as he pops up on screen, the tension of the film is completely heightened, and I would say it's the most interesting element about the film. Having a character like this come in and completely change the dynamic of the film is a pretty big task, and I gotta say, this was perfect casting, in my opinion. With the film's concept, I was expecting the sense of looming dread constantly, waiting for something bad to happen. I will say, with the introduction of Wallace, I started feeling a lot more tense than when we had initially started the film. There's this really great dinner scene in the film with Margaret and her daughters involving Wallace, and this is probably one of the most memorable scenes for me. You really get to see Ebon's performance from that kind of charisma and also bringing that eeriness that the Wallace character has. You kind of lay out all the cards on the table, and it starts building and building that tension. You really don't know how the resolution's going to go or what that's going to look like, and that only happens probably about 45-50 minutes into the film, I would say, and you don't know what that second half of the film's going to look like. That, honestly, probably had me the most captivated out of the entire film itself. It had me the most intrigued to see where the film was going to go after that. As we get deeper and deeper into the film, I really started feeling like it started losing some of that momentum and started to really drag in certain areas. Usually for the first 30 minutes of the film, you as an audience are just waiting for that trigger to be pulled and for the actual events to start picking up more and more steam. Unfortunately, the film never fully gets there, and that hour and a half runtime really starts feeling a lot longer and longer as you get deeper into the narrative. With this having a psychological aspect in the film, I figured we'd get some sort of slow burn, but as we got deeper and deeper into that side of things, this really felt like we were kind of retreading some beats from films that we've seen in the past. I would have loved to have seen a few more characters introduced, maybe shake up some events that were already in place, and make better use of the dust storm setting to build some more tension. From a horror perspective, the film never really delivers in what the audience came for, and from a drama standpoint, the film tends to retread some material we've seen in more adequate filmmaking. The film isn't badly composed. It does tend to drag, which may be hard for an audience to stay fully engaged, but there is some nice scenery. They do make use in terms of a shot composition, so there are some beautiful shots in here, but from a narrative standpoint, it does teeter some. With some good performances, the narrative itself doesn't really live up to the actor's potential. Overall, this is a film where the trailer looks way more interesting than the actual narrative itself. Introducing a great concept and some interesting character dynamics, this could have really lent itself to some interesting tension and horror. I don't think the film really ever finds its groove to fully satisfy an audience, and with an October filled with a lot of horror films, hold your breath is a proceed with caution for me. Well guys, this one didn't quite hit the mark like I had hoped, but this one is hitting streaming with Hulu on October 3rd, so if you're a fan of psychological horror or just a big fan of Sarah Paulson, this one might be for you, so you can check this one out starting October 3rd, and keep it right here on Splattercast because we got a whole month to get through of horror films, so we're going to be pretty busy, and if you haven't checked out what we have on the channel lately, we do have that 31 of 31 films in October that you should check out. This Hold Your Breath does appear on there as well, and of course we have so many lists, so many different reviews coming out throughout October, so keep it right here because we have all your horror needs. But until next time, I'm Luke Janesco, and stay scared.
The horror shit, gonna do it live, cause Splattercast kick it every day they live. Splattercast,